Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us, and that helps the bands and artists like Imogen, right? Imogen, is that how you say it?
That is absolutely correct. Good
Yes.
job.
Yes. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Imogen, she was at Americanafest this year, and we unfortunately did not get to see you in person, but I want to hear all about your experience at Americanafest.
Oh, thanks for asking. Americana was so fun. I'm such a big fan of that festival. I first came to Nashville from Australia, um, in gosh, what year was it? 2014. I was only 19 years old, and I came here for the first time by myself just to see Americana Fest. And I was playing a couple of little gigs with some Aussies. And I fell in love with the town. And so, that festival was my introduction to Nashville. And now, 11 years later, I live here. And it was my first time this year actually showcasing at the festival. So it was just a very special year for me with the festival. And I just have such a place in my heart for Americana. So I had such a good time.
It's nice also too leaving a festival and being home in 15 minutes too, probably, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Growing up in like kind of a bit of a regional area in Australia, like being able to drive anywhere in 15 minutes when I moved here to Nashville, I was like, that's crazy. I mean, 15 minutes is like practically next door, like in where I grew up. So it's like, it was crazy.
So let's talk about your growing up. Your parents were a huge influence on you for what you're doing currently. Like talk about how that, all it kind of came about.
Yeah, sure. So when I was growing up, my dad has always been a working musician. So he played in pubs and clubs around the Greater Sydney area all throughout my youth. And I just thought that was what all dads did, I guess. I was like, that's just a normal dad thing to do. And, I'd go and watch him play in his Led Zeppelin cover band when I was a kid, and my mum would take us along. And it was so much fun. And I think, he also wrote songs. And I think growing up with that presence in our house of like a songwriter and someone who had so many instruments lying around that he didn't mind my brother and I picking up, that was so important to me because it just meant that I found music at such a young age. And my mum herself isn't musical, but she loves music and she loves lyrics and she loves poetry. So she is someone that really encouraged us as well. So I feel like very lucky. I had a very lucky upbringing in that sense.
Yeah. Well, in one of your songs, I'm going to quote you. If I'm the book, then she's the author. I'm my mother's daughter. Obviously, you have a special relationship with your mom if you're writing a song about that. Or is that not a personal, are you speaking from someone else?
No, that's definitely very autobiographical. Most of my songs tend to be very autobiographical, and that song is definitely, about me and my mom. My mom is just a such a special person in my life. She honestly is my best friend as well as my mom, and someone that has just been there for me my whole life. And so she's just the most gentle, loving, kind lady, but also someone that taught me to stand up for myself. And I just don't think you could get a better mum. And I think the older I get, the more I appreciate her as a mum, and the more I feel like it's just amazing to me that you could be such a selfless person. And so that's why I wrote that song, Mother's Daughter.
Yeah. Does it make you look forward to having children of your own? Like having her having grown up, as your mother's daughter?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Funnily enough, and I've had this conversation with friends as well who have similar relationships with their mums, it actually goes the opposite direction because I am so like in awe of my mum's ability to be a great mum that I'm like, I could never do like I don't want to do it if I can't do it as well as my mum did it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to like, I don't even want to, I couldn't even get close to that. Like that's incredible.
So growing up in Western Sydney, obviously, I've never left the country. Obviously, I've been to, the Caribbean, but I've never been to Europe. Like, talk about like, for our audience, like what it was like growing up in Western Sydney.
Well, look, it's a very different experience, and I guess you only know what you know, and so that was completely normal to me. But I guess Australia is kind of it's seen when you're over here in the US. Australia is really seen as this totally exotic place, right? I mean, it's so far away, and a lot of people never get there in their lifetime, and I get that because it's so far. But growing up in Australia, it is very remote, and you're used to being quite isolated from other countries. It's a continent and a country, so it's you have to fly overseas to get to any other country. You can't travel across borders like that, and so we're kind of used to getting things late or being a little bit behind the eight ball as far as when my dad was growing up, music would come to Australia so much later than it came to the US or the UK, and you'd have to wait for vinyl. And it's not obviously not quite that drastic anymore, but it still feels a little bit like a bit of an old world feel to it, I guess, is the way I describe it. And I loved growing up in Western Sydney. I had a beautiful family life, and I was close enough to the city. It was about an hour and a half drive. So once I grew up, I could drive into the city and play gigs. But I was raised in an area that was quite remote, and there were no street lights and there were no shops, and it was a small community. So I feel like I got a little bit the best of both worlds. But certainly there's a real difference, moving here to the US. There's even though we all speak English and it's the same language, and there's lots of things that are similar because it's all part of the Western world, but it's still there's something that you can never put your finger on. That's the feel is different, the atmosphere is different, and it's something I still notice and I'm still getting used to today.
Yeah. So let's switch gears to Nashville now. I mean, you've been there for 11 years now. As a musician, like it has to be so intimidating because the quality of players in that town, it's just unbelievable to me. Like talk about that. Like talk about like, dealing with that on a first-hand basis, I'm sure, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it is a town that is just so full of inspirational people. And you're right, people who are, I mean, it's the cream of the crop, and that's what they always say about Nashville. It's like all the best people end up here. And so it's inspiring, but it is also very intimidating. And sometimes I definitely get in my own head about it sometimes where I'm like, oh my gosh, like who do I think I am being here? You know what I mean? Like, should I be here? Like, but you also have to kind of talk kindly to yourself and say, like, everyone who moves here because they want to work hard and get better at their trade. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And that doesn't mean you have to be the best musician in the world. That doesn't mean you have to be the best singer, the best songwriter, the best guitar player. It just means you have to be wanting to work. And that's what brought me here.
So, as an independent artist who's, trying to make their way, how difficult is it to get gigs in Nashville?
I mean, look, it is certainly a journey, and it's like anything else, like any new town, you can't walk in and expect it all to be laid out for you. And certainly, when I first got here, it was trying to meet folks who might be able to help me get gigs, and sometimes it was filling in for other people's gigs, and then you make your own relationships. It's like any town, the building blocks are there. You just have to work hard for it, and I found that obviously. I'm still working towards it, but I feel like if you're willing to hustle and you're willing to sort of get out there and meet people, it's really not as hard as people might think it is.
Yeah. It's odd to me too, like going to, Broadway and seeing all of these country artists with their restaurants and bars, which more power to them. It's just weird to me that there isn't any other genre of music that has something like that. Like, think about that. Like, no other city could say, like, yeah, we have 14 bands that have bars here, Like,
Well, yeah, isn't that funny? Because it feels, and I might be wrong about this, but it really feels like a Nashville specific thing as well. Because I can't, like, that doesn't happen in Australia from what, like, from my memory. Like, I don't feel like we have like artists that own bars. Like, it happens every now and then, sort of, but it's even more secretive. Like, it's not like they own a bar and it's called their name and it's themed around their music. Like, you might hear, oh, this person happens to be a part owner of this bar downtown, but it's never like Lainey Wilson's, this, or Miranda Lambert's this. And so that's a really specific thing to Nashville that I think is so fun and interesting, and obviously interesting to lots of people because it's this popular tourist spot downtown.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like the heartbeat of the city, and then everything else around it kind of like benefits. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's an accurate estimation, and I certainly know that it's a huge part of all of the money that's brought in for Nashville tourism is made downtown on that one strip, and it allows lots of other places to run. So that's great.
Yeah. And I was told by multiple people that those bars pay the musicians very well. So that's kind of nice. It's not just they're keeping all of the money, let's say, right?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, I think, different bars probably, I'm sure, have different levels of pay and all those sorts of things, but it's one of those things where the sheer fact that there are so many venues in this town just means that there are so many opportunities for people to perform, no matter the situation. It might be the corner of a hotel lobby, or it might be downtown Broadway, or it might be, a fun little hipster bar in East Nashville, wherever it is, everywhere has music. And so there are so many jobs for musicians, which is great.
Yeah, it really is. So you play guitar and piano. Is there an instrument that you typically write songs on more, or is that kind of equal?
It's funny. I used to write almost exclusively just on the guitar because that was really my focus instrument for a long time. But over COVID times, I actually kind of got back into playing piano, and I hadn't played a lot of piano for years. I sort of let it fall out of my repertoire, and I really got back into it during COVID, and I enjoyed it so much that I started writing so much on piano that I would even say that perhaps these days I write a little bit more on the piano than the guitar, which is really fun for me, and it brings out a whole other side of my writing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you feel like there is a particular like style that you kind of write more toward with piano compared to guitar, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you never write the same song that you would on piano on guitar and vice versa because they're just such like vastly different instruments. I mean, the piano always lends itself more for me to ballads and things that are a little bit more slower moving or a little bit more sentimental and heartfelt, whereas the guitar always lends itself more to like more rocking sort of stuff. So it depends. I always kind of pick up what the sort of mood that I'm feeling depends on what instrument I pick up.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about vocals a little bit. I was a tenor in high school, so
Cool.
I can appreciate a great head voice. And I
Oh,
understand that that is a big part of your singing. And like, for a lot of people, when you say the term head voice, that, they don't know what that means. Kind of explain to the audience how you use your head voice.
yeah. So, I mean, people refer to it as a head voice. Sometimes it's called falsetto. I kind of use either of those terms, but to me, it's like if you're. I mean, I am no technical person, but if you're belting, the sort of word belt, that means your chest voice, or you're using like the lower part of your voice and it sort of sounds a bit fuller, and then when you get to a certain point in your voice it breaks, or what they call breaks, and then it becomes your high voice, or your sort of, it's more like fragile and delicate, it's a bit more airy, it's not as loud as your chest voice. And so for me, I actually began by singing opera and musical theatre from the age of 8 to 18. So I had a whole, like, I had a whole 10 years of my life that was dedicated to singing pretty much just in my head voice. So, and then I got really into Joni Mitchell. So all of these things mean that I really care about my head voice being good.
And you probably have a nice set of lungs too, right?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I like to think so, and I like to think it's taught me good technique.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. So how does your fashion kind of style influence your music, whether it's your stage presence or it's in your songwriting?
That's a cool question. I think I've really gone through so many stages over the years, and that's obviously what you expect from someone that started doing this professionally when they were like 12. You're going to have lots of very different eras of clothing over the years. But I really like to think about how the clothes I'm wearing reflect the music I'm playing and um, the different albums that I'm working on and the different genres that I'm feeling like my music is fitting into. So at the moment, I feel like my music is really in that Americana world. And so I've been wearing a lot of like flare jeans and band t-shirts and like cowboy boots that are a little bit indie, a little bit rock and roll, and a little bit country. So I like to sort of toe that line. But then, a few years back, I was a little bit more in a pop space. And so I'd be wearing a lot of bright colors and a lot of like fake leather and all that sort of stuff. So to me, it like really helps me get in the zone of what I'm doing musically if I reflect it in fashion.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to talk about this new album. It came out on May 30th, Choking on Fuel. It's an interesting title. Let's hear about this title.
Lots of people ask me about this. So
Yeah.
this, I know it's a bit odd, but hopefully odd in a memorable way. So Choking on Fuel is a lyric from one of the songs on the album, The Art of Getting Through. And what I meant by that lyric is that, I feel like someone that has struggled all my life with a certain amount of like anxiety, but also that goes hand in hand with ambition. And to me, I've always been incredibly ambitious and incredibly anxious at the same time. And so, what I meant by choking on fuel was you can fuel yourself with your ambition and your drive to achieve things, but sometimes too much fuel actually ends up holding you back and you end up choking because it's like there's a difference between fueling yourself and like running yourself off the road or burning yourself out. And so that was where that lyric came from.
It's a fantastic album, first of all.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
just just fantastic. I want to talk about a couple songs. Sebastian.
Yes.
This song is so infectious. Like you need a vaccine to like it is like oh my gosh. Like I want to hear the story behind this song.
So that's so cool to hear. Thanks for saying that. It's
Sure.
it's a real earworm, this one. But I wrote this song a few years back with a good friend of mine. She is a Melbourne-based songwriter and producer. Her name's Eilish Gilligan. And at the time I had this very inconvenient crush on a friend of mine named Sebastian. And I was like, I want to write this song. He had a girlfriend at the time. So I was like, there's nothing I can do about this crush, but I want to write this song about it to get it out of my system. So I wrote this song with Eilish. And then I was like, no one's ever going to hear this, obviously. Then, of course, sent it to my manager, and he's like, "Oh, this is a really good song. I think we have to release this." I'm like, "Well, that's awkward because it's literally the story of me having a crush on my friend." So time went by, and between me writing it and me releasing it, he had broken up with his girlfriend. So I figured it wasn't quite as bad anymore to release the song, but it was very weird for a minute between me and this guy. We're fine now. We're still good mates, and I have a lovely partner, so everything's fine. But it was a very awkward, funny situation, and we laugh about it now. And the song actually features a band from
Yes.
Newcastle, Australia, called Midnight Chicken. That band are a bluegrass band who are my favorite band at the moment, and it also happens to be my partner's band. So it's a whole full circle moment.
So they're based in the US then too.
They are actually in Australia. So I
Oh,
go back and forth a lot between Australia and the US.
oh wow. So you don't mind that flight?
Oh, hey, I don't like it. I definitely don't like it, but I put up with it because my partner is so beautiful. I wouldn't do it for anyone.
Listen out there, partner. She's she's fine for you. So another song that we have to talk about off this new album is your cover of "If It Makes You Happy." First of all, I saw Cheryl, actually probably one of my first 10 concerts that I ever went to in my life was Cheryl Crow.
No way.
I went to Woodstock in '99 and Cheryl Crow played there.
Oh
And so
my
I've
gosh.
been a huge fan of Cheryl Crow like since the beginning. So when I heard this cover, like haunting, obviously like any adjective you want to throw at it, but like I want to hear like your inspiration for doing the song.
That's so cool that I love that you love Cheryl. She is one of my biggest inspirations. And I just think she is such a badass. She's so true to herself. She's such a great writer, such a great performer, musician. So I've always loved this song. And what happened was I've made a lovely friendship here in Nashville with Jeff Trott, who has played guitar with her for a very long time, but also co-wrote a lot of her songs, including If It Makes You Happy. And when I go see Jeff play at Writers' Rounds here in Nashville, he always plays If It Makes You Happy. And he does it his own version of it, which is actually quite sad, like a bit of a ballad. And he explains that originally it was written on the piano. And from watching him do the song like that, it made me feel like I wanted to do a version that paid tribute to both Jeff's version and Cheryl's version. So it starts off like a piano ballad and it ends up becoming more like the Cheryl version. And, it's a great song. Jeff and Cheryl are both incredible songwriters. And then I asked my friend Kezia Gill, who's from the UK, and she and I are good mates, and I asked her if she'd sing on it. So that just kind of rounded the whole thing out for me.
Yeah, it's great. And to end the album, was there any trepidation to end the album with that song or
It kind of just seemed like the natural thing to do because it's the only cover on the album, and also because the song takes such a journey from the beginning in sounding like such a ballad to the end where it's really rocking out like the Cheryl version. And I think, I felt like it was the right place to put it. And it's such an anthem and it's such a belting out song that it just felt like the right way to cap it all off. It was kind of almost like, here are my songs, and then here's what I'm working towards is, Sheryl Crow level artist. That's what I want to be. That's my goal.
yeah, that's so cool. Well, and it's a good artist to strive for, right?
Absolutely, that's right.
So you have opened up for Steve Poltz. He
Yes.
is fantastic and such an underrated, like under the radar musician. I would love to hear like either a story that he shared with you or like a night of whatever that you guys did because he's so
Oh my
cool.
gosh. Steve is the coolest dude. Like, I just think he's like one of my favorite people on earth, but also like the most interesting, unique person you'll ever meet in your whole life. Like, I first met Steve at Port Fairy Folk Festival in Australia, and he was playing the festival. I was playing in another artist's band at the festival. It was actually Jim Lauderdale. I was playing in Jim Lauderdale's band,
Uh-huh.
and Steve and Jim are friends. And so, they met up and said hello. And Steve and I just started chatting. And him just being the most open, lovely person was just like, hey, you're really cool. We should write a song together. And I was like, sure. And like, so as soon as I got back to Nashville, I hit him up. I was like, let's write that song. And so I go to his house, and I had this idea about writing a song called Squinters, which is a song on the album Choking on Fuel. And it's a song inspired by the nickname that we give to people who live in Western Sydney but work in the city of Sydney because they're always driving home into the West into the setting sun after work. And that's why they're called Squinters. And Steve loved this idea. And so we ended up writing the song together. It took us an hour and a half. And then he was like, all right, let's go get tacos. So since then, we've been great friends, and I love him dearly. He's a great inspiration to me.
So yeah, Squinters was the other song I was going to talk about. So
Oh,
great
great.
segue. Yeah, like Squinters. The lyrically, you are very, very clever. I think clever is a good way to put it.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
because it's also it's cleverly kind of lighthearted. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. And I think I appreciate that. And I'm glad that that's what you get out of it when you listen, because I always feel like I have to take every moment of kind of sadness or anger and sort of cap it off with a little piece of like tongue in cheek sort of yeah, sort of softening it a little with it with a bit of a joke, and I think that's kind of how I like to write.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does. It comes through and you can hear that, literally.
Thank you.
So I think is Paula Cole, she is Australian, is that correct or no?
Who is that? Sorry.
Paula Cole. Um,
I don't know, possibly.
Man, it's terrible. She sang, but you remind me a lot of her
Oh,
vocally.
that's
And she
cool.
had like a really big hit in the early 2000s. I'm losing, my track of thought,
Yeah.
but
No,
um,
no, that's so cool. Well, very possible that she is Australian and I'm just not aware of her. That is
yeah,
possible.
I want to say she is, and I apologize, Paula, if you're not, but but
I
you
think she'll
did.
understand. I don't know her, but she'll understand.
Yeah. Uh, but anyway, so the art of getting through. So that was like it was what 16 songs you did, but it was this kind of like a mix. Like how did
Yeah.
you release that?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting thing that we did that sort of we didn't set out to do this, but it ended up being this way. So The Art of Getting Through is an album that I released in 2024, last year. I had to think about that for a second. It feels like it's been 10 years, but it was last year.
Yeah.
Um, and then Choking on Fuel is a selection of the songs from The Art of Getting Through, but redone and reimagined in a more stripped back, intimate kind of Americana way. And the reason we decided to do this is because I absolutely adore The Art of Getting Through. That album's always going to be very close to my heart. But I'd been doing so much solo touring after I released that record. And a few people said to me, like, I love the songs with the full band, but I actually would love to hear them in a more stripped back way. So it sounds more like How I Saw You Live, which is just you and a guitar.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, for those people, it would be nice for them to have a version of some of these songs like the way they saw me live. And that's how this album came into being, really.
Yeah. Well, or I guess you could have just released a live album of you playing it that way too, right?
That's true. Yeah, it pretty much does the same thing. And we just kind of like made the songs stripped back. We re recorded them and we added some fun things here and there, some guests, and sort of made it its own special thing.
Yeah. So I got two questions left for you because I know you got to get going. I want to know what is the best way that you like to listen to music? Is it in your car? Is
Oh,
it with headphones? Is it like in front of some really nice speakers in your living room? Like what's that ideal way for you to listen to music?
that's cool. I think there's two ways for me. One is when I'm taking a little walk around the neighborhood and it's like dusk and there's like a beautiful colors in the sky and I'm just on headphones having a little walk by myself. I think that's a really special feeling. And the other way is in my car. I love driving. I drive a lot for my job, obviously, lots of interstate driving, lots of long car trips. I love listening to music in the car, and it feels like the best way to get through a whole album because you're not always going to be, having a walk that's going to last for an entire album, maybe. So you get a chance on long car trips to really dig into a whole record front to back and hear it how the artist intended it.
Yeah. No, I absolutely right. So last question. What do we have for new music? What do we have for tour dates from now until the end of the year? Or anything that you can share?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I am heading back to Australia very soon. Well, first, actually, next week, I'm heading to Montana. So I'm playing a festival in Montana called Livingston Songwriter Fest. Very excited about that. Then
Nice.
I'm heading back to Australia for a tour in October with Kezia Gill. We're co-headlining a tour there. And then I will be back in America again. Amidst all this, I have a show in Nashville called Oz Songwriters, which is with some of my other Aussie songwriter friends. Um, I've also got Folk Alliance, which is in January in New Orleans, and planning some things from there into the rest of 2026. So it's shaping up to be a really exciting big year. I'm really looking forward to it already. And yeah, in the meantime, I'm writing for my next record. I'm just working on it and I've already recorded a tiny bit, but sort of working towards putting the track list together at the moment, which is so exciting. It's still very early stages, so I'm excited to watch it come together.
So what, I'm sorry, I got one more question for you.
That's okay.
What are like what are the Australian audiences versus American audiences? Like are there do you see a difference like when you're playing live or
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think firstly, I always have to uh, talk slower when I'm in America because I speak so fast sometimes with my Aussie accent, and people are like, "What are you saying?" But apart from that, it's also like I find American crowds really, I mean, they're both beautiful for different reasons, but I find American crowds really very respectful, but at the same time excited. Like I can always sense that people are really sort of positive and like really want you to do well, and there's a real energized feeling in the crowd while still being respectful. Australian crowds are a little bit more rowdy generally, but that's not always a bad thing. So it depends what the sort of show and what you want.
yeah, I that doesn't surprise me. Well, Imogen, thank you so much for doing this. I just it breaks my heart that I did not get to see you during Americana Fest, but your Saturday show at one of my favorite venues in Nashville, the Five Spot, we were
Oh,
leaving Friday, so like we couldn't see you, but yeah,
that is okay. That's no worries at all. It's a busy week, but hopefully we'll get to catch each other in the flesh at some point. But I appreciate you having me on the pod. Thank you for asking me on.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us and that helps the artists like Imogen. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dog. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.